Triple Noble Nick, welcome to the video. This is the fourth installment in a series about how to find the highest quality animal products and what kind of things to ask the farmers, what the spectrum of standards are. And this is going to be an interesting one because it's actually harder to find pasture-raised pork that is raised to really high standards than it is to find things like the topics of my previous videos: 100% grass-fed beef, chicken meat, eggs. Although finding actual high-quality eggs and chicken meat can be pretty hard. I think pork is still even a bit rarer. So we're going to jump into this. I have had a farm for a couple years, but I haven't raised animals. I've worked on farms with animals. When I was done being vegan, I decided to start visiting all the farms that I was getting meat from. Now, I don't really have the ability to do that, traveling around all the time. I would like to get back to strictly only doing that, though. However, in that process, I went and visited farms for pork, chicken meat, eggs, beef, etc., other birds, and I was able to find some really high-quality pork farmers. You're really going to need to look for people who really care about it, who, like the one lady who was doing pasture-raised pork, she would slaughter her own animals. It was a very, very spiritual thing for her. She really cared about giving them the best life she could, and did an amazing job. But pasture-raised pork, it's an interesting one. It's not as easy of a system as 100% grass-fed beef. It takes a bit of work. Pigs are omnivores, so unlike beef, they're not just going to be eating grass. And so a lot of what we're looking for in this series is, what is the animal consuming? That's a lot of what we're asking. But similar to the beef video, we're also going to be, when we do ask the questions, do they live outside? Number one, we want the pigs to be outside all the time, but we want them to rotate, just like beef. I wouldn't say they actually need to rotate every day. You don't need to be looking for that, but what we want to be looking for is they're rotating enough that they are regenerating the ecosystem and that they're constantly improving the soil. They disturb it, it's given time to regenerate so that the system is constantly growing more food for the pigs. And so what you want to be looking for in these pastures is a lot of diversity. You want to be asking the farmer, we're getting to the meat of the video. What do you want to ask the farmer? What kind of roots do the pigs have access to? Pigs like to dig around in the soil, disturb things, eat roots of plants. They're not just eating a bunch of leaves or grass. So what kind of roots do the pigs have access to? What kind of other plants? Usually you're going to have to give them some kind of supplemental feed. And what I've seen with pork farmers that I really like is they will form connections with local produce farmers and get excess tomatoes that are starting to go bad, eggplant, zucchini, these kind of things. And if they're getting some kind of really high quality supplemental feed like organic produce, that's amazing. And so basically you want to be trying to find that they rely less on corn, less on grains, and more on local high quality sources, because a lot of the feed isn't just having non-organic corn. It's going to come with a bunch of artificial nutrients to fill in the fact that corn has no actual nutrition. So that is why you really want to be looking for pigs that are regenerating the soil so that the system is constantly regenerating, the ecosystem building, and every time the pigs come back, there's more for them to eat. Whereas if the system is not regenerative, it's degenerative, what you're going to find is that they just constantly have to rely on more supplemental feed. So that's the type of practices that are actually going to allow the farmer to legitimately not rely so much on supplemental feed. I would say I'm not going to go into as much depth. I'm going to keep this one short. Go watch the other videos in this series. If you're actually interested in this, you're going to be interested in the other videos. But I'll say, based on that context, what's different about pigs? It's kind of just like cows, but they eat a more omnivorous diet. It is harder to find pasture-raised pig systems. A lot of what you're looking for, there are some farms that are just going to be doing pork, but if you want to be finding farms that are doing pork farming synergistically with other systems, pigs can be great for breaking new ground. So that's a good one if you have them using pigs to break new ground. See how they treat their pigs in the winter. Do they give them a bunch of wood chips to root around in, making compost out of that, or are they confined to their own poop? What are they eating in the winter? But then also there's different nuts and things they can be feeding them. So you really just want to be asking a farmer, what are you feeding the pig? Do they live outside? Are they having access to fresh air? What kind of drugs are you feeding them? So a lot of this is really similar to the cows, except instead of grass, they're omnivores. And so there's going to be a lot more variety. And this is a similarity to have with the chicken systems that chickens are eating like 70% bugs, 30% grass, but of course you're actually in reality very rarely going to find that. They're always going to have at least like 10% grains. If you can find them under 50% grains and the rest are bugs and grass, that's great. With pigs, it's kind of similar. Like, it'd be amazing if the pigs are rooting around, finding roots, finding other plants to eat for all of their diet, just like a wild pig would, eating a super omnivorous diet, eating whatever kind of other living things they can find. But in reality, they're going to have some kind of supplemental feed probably most of the time. But what you want to be looking for is that the supplemental feed is high quality local stuff that's not filled with artificial ingredients, artificial nutrients to make up for the lack of nutrients, and that the rest of their diet, hopefully at least 50%, is really high quality foraged foods that are coming from a regenerative system. So that's what you should be looking for. I've read Joel Salatin's book on pigs. If you really want to understand pig farming systems, that's a really good book to go into. But overall, why is it that pigs are not raised as often as beef? I think it's just harder to make work. You need a lot of variety of species. I think they're probably not as profitable as beef. And it's just not as well known. Like 100% grass-fed beef, everyone hears about that. But pasture-raised, foraged pork is really kind of niche. It's harder to find. But if you can find it, it's really superior. For me, I mean, pigs are really smart animals. It's very rare that I'll eat pork that's not from a farm that I visit. I think it's really extremely different. Like, even a lot of factory farm beef is outside eating grass for a lot of their life. But with pork, finding a high quality pork source is really going to stand out. It's a lot different. The meat's going to look different, taste different. It really is an amazing thing. So if you can find a high quality pork farmer, ask them these questions and just try and get a sense on what their relationship to the system is. These questions will help you probe about their diet and stuff like that. And through their answers to the questions, you can get a sense of what their relationship to the system is. If they're like, oh yeah, we love our pigs, they're outside, we try and keep them outside, but are they rotating them in such a way that they're regenerating the ecosystem, so over time the pigs can have more and more foraged foods that are really nutritious for them? And what kind of supplemental feed are they giving them? Which we already talked about, the quality of that. So people can raise their pigs outside, and really that's the number one thing. All the pig really cares about is being outside. If they're eating some corn, yeah, they're not going to be living an optimal life. They're not going to be as healthy, but that's what most humans do. And it's not super cruel, but while it would be optimal for that, just make sure they're living outside. Really, that is the number one thing. But if you can find pigs that are living outside, also part of a regenerative system where they're getting a lot of their food from the land directly, and then the supplemental feed is high quality, that's really going to be amazing. So find pigs that are outside and then ask those questions to see if this is really an extremely high quality pork farm operation.